Okay, so today I'm going to try to show you how to do an oil change on a 2011 Toyota Yaris. Let's see, what I did here is I put them up on ramps. I thought putting them up on ramps is a little bit easier than jacking the car up. And then the first step to changing your oil is we're going to need to drain it, and to drain it we need to take off this oil plug right here. And you need to turn this oil plug counterclockwise. Now I've already loosened it, so I'm just going to carefully twist this off. And hopefully all the oil is going to go ahead and land in this oil drain catcher over here. This is just a cheap oil drain catcher that I got from Walmart. There we go. It looks like I splashed oil all over my hands. I'll try not to have that happen to you. There we go, and this should just take a couple of minutes to drain all the oil out. When the oil is draining, if you have a small pan like this, you also want to make sure you keep it centered, because as the oil drains less, it's going to go ahead and project a little bit less outward, so just make sure it's centered. Alright, go ahead and clean off my hands, and to give you an idea of where the oil plug is at the bottom of the car, it's going to be on your passenger side, at least for the vehicles designed for the United States. It's going to be on the passenger side. You can see there's your oil filter over there, and your oil plug. It's that bad boy right there. Okay, and as you can see, it's getting off centered. Alright, looks like it's just about drained. It always takes the longest to get this last bit out. Alright, and after that finishes draining, I'm going to go ahead and remove this oil filter and replace it with a new one. And when you do replace this oil filter, a bunch of oil is also going to dump out of there. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the video and resume it when I'm going to go ahead and take out this oil filter here. Okay, so resuming my video here. It's only been about a minute and the oil isn't really dripping anymore. So I'm going to try to do is I'm going to put this plug back on. By the way, I forgot to mention this plug is actually a 14, let me make sure I get the 14 millimeter, and if you want to loosen something, it's almost always counterclockwise. So counterclockwise to loosen it, clockwise to tighten it. Okay, so make sure to put it on hand tight, and after it's on hand tight, I'm gonna give it a quick half turn. You really don't need to tighten these that much. It'll probably help if I tighten it the right way. Yeah, you don't want to make sure it's tight too much, but just a little bit snug with the ratchet there. Okay, so I have my oil plug back on, and my next move is to remove this oil filter. And remove an oil filter, you usually can't do it by hand unless you have Hulk strength or it's not really on tight. So to remove an oil filter, I'm going to use this oil filter wrench, and I've attached it to a ratchet socket. Okay, and I'm going to try to do this counterclockwise as well, and see if it fits. Okay, there we go. Okay, and I'm actually not going to use this one. It's a little bit too tight, so I'm going to use this one, and this one move so I can angle it differently, because that other one's just flat and I can't really move it because it's hitting up against everything else over here. So let's try this. Okay, there we go. That loosened really easy. So okay, that's not good. All right. Okay, so it's loosened and oil's already starting to come out of it. Trying to make sure I catch all this oil in here. Alright. Okay, so I'm still loosening this. Let's try to get this wrench off. Okay, and then since it's loose, I can just take it off with my hands and hope most of this oil is going to land in this pan. This is probably going to be a lot messier than removing the oil plug. Also, another good suggestion is to wear gloves, surgical gloves, any sort of latex gloves you can get really cheap. Okay, well, guess that works. There's a bunch of oil inside of that, so try to make sure you keep it upright and not have it fall like I just did. Okay, and here we go. The oil filter's out. I'm just going to clean off my hands and put on the new oil filter. And the oil filters I like using, Bosch Distance Plus. They're a little bit better than the standard Bosch, however when you pronounce it. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and pause it while I go ahead and clean off and put on the new oil filter there. Alright, so back under my car again, and I'm going to go ahead and put on the new oil filter. Again, just make sure you turn it clockwise. Okay, I'm going to make sure it's hand tight. And some people, they actually put oil around the rim of that to create a good seal. I'm actually not going to do that. Mostly because I'm lazy, partially because I don't think there's a huge benefit to doing it. But there are a lot of guys who swear that it's the proper way to put on an oil filter. So I'm just going to make sure it's tightened just a little bit with this oil wrench here. I'm not going to twist it too tight. Just enough where it does have a good seal. Okay, that's pretty good. Just a little bit snug with the oil wrench. Okay, so I've drained the oil, put on a new oil filter. Now the only thing left to do is to put in the new oil. After the new oil put in, make sure you recycle this stuff. Every city usually has an oil recycling center. You just dump that into the oil recycling bin. At least for my city, it's just a huge bin with tons and tons of oil in it. And then every once in a while the city will go ahead and recycle that. So I'm gonna go ahead and get the oil around the car.